Today we are honored to have Mr. Jay Panda sir. Welcome sir.
Thank you.
Welcome to Shakti Echoes. Panda sir is this time for this election the UP Prabhari, and he's also the Vice President of the BJP. He's also in charge of Assam and Delhi responsibilities for the party. So we have a lot of insights to gather from him. So looking forward to a very interesting discussion, sir. Thank you for making time. I know you've been running around the country. You've not spent 2 nights continuously at one location. So thank you.
Thank you. It's
really
a pleasure. You've been having a very good impact with your very incisive discussions. I've been looking forward to it.
Thank you, sir. So we'll get right into it then. So the opposition, although very little is left of the India alliance really now, but despite that, the opposition keeps attacking the BJP. They keep saying that the allies are coming back into the fold because the BJP uses institutions for 2 reasons. One, to blackmail people so that they come into the NDA fold, and B, to sort of cut the opposition down to size.
See, the problem with the opposition is BJP's Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikas philosophy is an existential threat to them, because their style of politics has been about polarizing, about counting on a certain number of votes, certain section of society's votes, and then taking everybody else for granted, and their dynastic politics. All of this is under threat because of the BJP's approach of reaching out to all Bharatiyas, all Indians.
Yes.
Now, so they are making this allegation. Look, the people who ran the country for more than 7 decades, and they packed the institutions in blatant ways. So the history that is taught to Indian school children is blatantly biased because it was packed with leftists who had to downplay the history of India before the last millennium, who, huge kingdoms and empires of ancient Bharat, which had a span across the Indian Ocean, across dozens of countries, they are treated to less than 1 paragraph in our history books.
Yes.
You ask who was King Kharavela of Odisha, who defeated the Magad Empire. A schoolboy will not know because they are suppressed. This was done by packing the institutions with hardcore leftists and family retainers. Now, when the BJP started correcting it, they have been screaming, the opposition has been screaming bloody murder for 10 years. I'll give you an example. So, the late Shakti Sinha was one of our most articulate, well-educated, sophisticated, liberal, centrist bureaucrats. And when he was appointed to the Nehru Library, there was an outcry that the BJP is packing the institution with its ideological supporters. Whereas what was being done was bringing the balance back to the center by the earlier packed leftist family retainers of 70 years. So this is their whole argument. Now, their argument about investigative agencies doing their work. Look, the same people who made their career on a so-called anti-corruption drive are refusing to participate in investigation, where their colleagues are in jail and the judges are denying bail to them because the prima facie evidence is there. Now, when bail is repeatedly denied by judges, it is, you can't do it whimsically. It is because there is prima facie evidence, there is a money trail, there are witness statements, there are a lot of evidence of huge amounts of money which have been, I'm talking about the Delhi liquor scam here, but the same thing exists all over the country. Now, they make allegations that this is targeted and one-sided, but the point is, wherever people have been exonerated, it's not by the agencies or by the government, or certainly not by the BJP, it's by courts. Now, if you are so clear that there is injustice, then there is a system of getting, and the courts do rule against the government on a regular basis. So if you are not able to get rulings in your favor, it can only mean that the prima facie evidence is quite clear. Now, I'll tell you something. the Prime Minister downwards, it is very clear that no such raids and interrogations will happen unless there is solid evidence.
Yes.
Now, because there is solid evidence, these raids and these investigations are seeing a degree of success that you have not seen.
Yes.
The number of convictions
Yes.
of corruption
Yeah.
have gone up manifold
Yes.
in the last 10 years. So, this is what they have to answer.
No, and so I've written about this in my book, and there's lots of people who have written about this in the past, that the era of Indira Gandhi, Sanjay Gandhi, Rajiv Gandhi, all of these people, it was called briefcase politics.
Yes.
They used, IT raids, etc., to blackmail businessmen, to blackmail people into donating in briefcases of cash. It was popularly called briefcase politics.
Yes.
So they championed the use of investigative agencies. So one is that point. The other point I want to make with Mr. Kejriwal's and the Delhi government's issue is that look how they turn the narrative around. That despite not being able to come clean, several of their ministers and perhaps the chief minister also, because he's not gone and complied, they've turned the narrative around and said, अगर हमें cabinet meeting जेल से भी करनी पड़ेगी तो हम करेंगे.
Look, we have examples of convicted politicians foisting their spouses or other family members in their place to run governments. It happened in Bihar. Now this is a new example of a corrupt chief minister wanting to continue should he get convicted and be in jail. This is bizarre actually.
Yes.
You can't have governments being run from jail.
Yeah.
That is because there is a new era now where it is harder and harder to foist your spouse. Now, if the Delhi chief minister were to get convicted and tomorrow and foist his spouse, I think there may be rebellion in his party. That's why he's talking about running the government from jail. Look, they have tried to go to court and claim that these investigations are unfair and illegal. The court has overruled them and said nothing doing, you better attend the investigations and participate. They are still defying that.
Yes.
And this from a party which has its roots in so-called anti-corruption drive. So their hypocrisy is there for all to see. I think sometimes younger Indians may not appreciate these nuances,
yes.
and I hope that through talks like this,
yes.
they will look into it themselves, they will inquire themselves and realize the kind of hypocrisy and the fakery that the opposition
yes.
indulges in.
Since you have such heavy duty organizational responsibilities, can you help us understand that yes, we have Prime Minister Mody, who is, the engine of this, of the BJP, but even to rally behind Prime Minister Mody, you need an organization that can support, his sort of, his speed, let's put it that way. So what type of organizational setup does it take for the largest political party in the world to get the voters out and sort of just spread the message at this scale?
The Bharatiya Janata Party has been blessed to have had extremely good leadership as well as a very committed large base of members. So today Prime Minister Narendra Mody is not just the most popular leader in India, he's by far the most popular leader around the world. I mean, if you look at all the surveys,
yes.
Other world leaders would die to have half of the kind of popularity that Modi ji has. Now, the Sangathan with 18 crore members hasn't happened overnight.
Yeah.
It has taken 4 generations of extremely visionary leadership and also millions of Karyakartas who have struggled, given their blood, sweat and tears and brought the party to this position where we have a presence in India all across the country, right down to the booth level, far, far more than any other party. In fact, since India is the largest democracy in history, We have the largest voter base this time going into this election in history.
Yes.
And Bharatiya Janata Party has by far the widest spread. So this is the largest spread that any political organization has ever had in the history of humankind. So the national leadership is well known. We have the state leadership. Then we have the district leadership. Below the district, we have the blocks, which are mandal leadership. Below that, we have something called a Shakti Kendra, which is a collection of booths, usually 5 booths. And then down to the booth, which is the first point on the ground where the voters come. So we have a presence right down to that level, millions of Karyakartas. Now, out of the 18 crore members, a large percentage is very active on a daily basis. And of course, during elections, everybody comes into the flow.
Of course.
But when I say they're very active on a daily basis, means the Bharatiya Janata Party doesn't just turn up for elections. Most other parties, you will see their leaders partying in
they're
the south of
politicians.
No, they party in the south of France or in Thailand and in other places. Whereas not only our leaders, but our Karyakartas work round the clock. So we have activities virtually every day of the week. And 365 days in a year. We do lots of social work. For example, during COVID, our millions of Karyakartas reached out and helped hundreds of millions of Bharatiyas. Secondly, we do political activities. So, for example, strengthening our booth level Karyakartas, the monitoring systems, the checklist of items that they have to make sure is happening on the ground, to organize, to reach out to voters, to get other supporters on board. This is all organized and it's not left to random motivation of the Karyakarta.
Right.
Finally, we use technology a lot. So today we already have hundreds of call centers which are dedicated. Most of these call centers are dedicated to one Lok Sabha constituency each. Some of them handle maybe 2 Lok Sabha constituencies. So on a regular basis, every day, lakhs of calls are being made, both to the general public to reach out with messaging, but also to our Karyakartas to make sure, to monitor, to follow up on the checklist of items that is being done. So, specific preparation for this election started 2 years ago.
Interesting.
When we did an all India exercise of more than 1 lakh booths. We had almost 50,000 Karyakartas on the ground, and we took feedback of about 10 million people from the public to identify what all we need to do to further grow and to address areas where we still haven't won the seats. So this kind of massive, organized, structural effort, nobody else compares to this at all.
Of course. So, adding a follow-up sort of question, we hear from opposition parties that the Karyakartas, especially those at the ground levels, they are demotivated because they've been out of power, not used to being out of power, whatever, multiple reasons. Prime Minister Mody is to come back for his 3rd term with a larger vote share. So his vote share has been considerably going up. BJP's popularity has been considerably going up. Does this translate into the enthusiasm of the Karyakartas on ground?
Let me answer that in 2 ways. So it is but natural that the opposition parties' members are demotivated for 2 reasons. A, you said because they are out of power, and that's it, because their motivation is to be in power. The BJP was not in power for so many decades while our Karyakartas kept on getting more and more motivated and growing in number. Why? Because we have a larger purpose. We have a larger purpose as to the destiny of Bharat, the renaissance, the resurgence, to once again be a Vishwaguru, to once again regain. For millennia, Bharat was the place where people from all over the world used to flock to. They used to come here for wisdom, for knowledge, for spirituality, for seeking their fortunes. And it got suppressed because of many centuries of attacks and colonialism. But we have that vision. Now, if an opposition political party's members are only motivated by power, it is only natural that they will get demotivated when they don't. Secondly, most of these other parties don't have Karyakartas really anymore. They're not cadre based. Like we have millions of people who put their own effort, their own time, their own money into work. Now, most of the other Karyakartas of other parties are either small-time contractors, even big-time contractors, or they are paid workers. So, obviously, it's a very transactional relationship for them.
Right.
For us, our Karyakarta has a vision of India, and that vision was there intact for many decades when we were not in government. And of course, it is correct that today that we have seen 10 years of the Modi government and many long pending wish list items have got implemented for the good of the country. That motivates them even further, and they can see that this Modi ki guarantee is a real thing, because whatever has been in our manifesto has been delivered. So they are looking forward to the third term to achieve many of these dreams which are still pending. And it's not just about power, it's about achieving the targets and the goals which are going to do good for the country.
Yes, yes. So motivated by ideology. That is the biggest, from what I understand. So let's come to Uttar Pradesh. Out of the ab ki baar 400 par, out of the 400, 80 is likely to come from Uttar Pradesh. So the party is expecting a full score in Uttar Pradesh, 80 on 80. I'm sure this is easier said than done. And
see, none of the success has come easy.
Yes.
I mentioned the many decades of sacrifice and toil by 4 generations of party leaders and Karyakartas. But look at today's situation. The Prime Minister, despite such huge success, still works, he works at least 20 hours a day, right from early morning till late night.
Yes.
And he sets an example that, nobody can then complain about hard work in the party. So about Uttar Pradesh, look at it this way. It's the largest state. It's larger than Pakistan in terms of population. By far the largest number of seats in parliament, and a very diverse demographic. Now, in the last 2 elections, we have had huge record-setting victories. In 2014, under the guidance of Amit Shah ji, who then went on to become party president, we won 73 seats, 71 for the BJP and 2 for our allies out of 80. Now, last time around, the in charge was JP Nadda ji, who is now the party president. And it was a big challenge, because last time the big parties got together in UP. They had an alliance where, if you looked at the arithmetic, it was very daunting for us. But Modi ji and the BJP have proven repeatedly that elections is not only about arithmetic. It is about chemistry, it is about vision, it's about delivering to people's aspirations. So, despite that very daunting arithmetic in 2019, BJP and allies won 64 seats out of 80 in 2019. So, that is a sweep by any measure.
Yes.
And this time around, of course, there is a huge momentum, there is a huge enthusiasm to see Modi ji as the Prime Minister again.
Of course.
And as a result, it is absolutely reasonable for us to target all 80 seats.
Yes, absolutely. It is reasonable to target all 80 seats, but is it a natural disadvantage for the BJP or allies to start with? See, because it is assumed that the minority votes go to the opposition camp. So, so that 20% vote share, approximately 20% minority vote share, is it a natural disadvantage? Are you already starting at 100 minus 20? So, are you starting at 80?
There are many things that need to be cleared up on this issue. So, let me clarify multiple issues. Number one, the BJP stands by the slogan and governs by the slogan, Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikas, Sabka Vishwas, Sabka Prayas. This is inbuilt into our party constitution. We are for all Indians. It is shown and demonstrated in the track record of the governance of BJP NDA government. You can look at the hundreds of millions of people who have benefited from the Modi Sarkar schemes yojanas, you cannot find a single instance of discrimination
Of course.
against anybody on the
Yes.
basis of religion
Yes.
or caste or anything. So
Yes.
that's number one. Number two, so we aspire to get everyone's votes.
Yes.
Now, when you say minority, I think there is a old conventional mindset of lumping many things together. So look at the demographics of Goa.
Okay.
Look at the demographics of the Northeast. Now, we have been winning there repeatedly in the past decade. In fact, less than a decade ago, it used to be said we could never win Assam, we could never win in the Northeast. But this proves false the allegation that BJP only gets the votes of the majority and not of many minority communities, including Christians, including Muslims, Sikhs, Parsis. We have been getting. Number three is that for many decades, the opposition parties had played polarization politics.
Yes.
They had tried to polarize some sections of the minorities and taken the votes of the others for granted. Now, this has boomeranged on them. You could say that, are you starting with a 20% disadvantage or are you starting with an 80% advantage? Because of the policies of the Modi government, I've already told you about winning even in demographics like Goa and the Northeast. It's,
Yes.
it's happening in UP, it's happening all over the country.
Yes.
You know, the other parties have, for example, ghettoized many communities by keeping them poor, keeping them less educated,
Yes.
and only taking their votes as a vote bank.
Yeah, it's a captive. They've kept them
Captive
kept them
vote.
captive.
Now, for example, to treat every woman equally in the country, irrespective of her religion, is a part of our constitution and it is a part of our commitment.
Yes.
Now, those who claim to stand for Muslims, for instance, never did this, while Islamic countries have reformed these laws.
Yes.
So it waited for a Modi ji to come and bring about these changes.
Yes.
I'm sure it may take a while,
Yeah.
because there is a generation that is growing up benefiting from these policies,
Yes.
and they will come of voting age in the next 10 years or 15 years.
Yes.
So I think we will see much more benefit in the coming years.
Yes.
But already I think there is evidence
Yes. Yes.
that many communities who had been brainwashed against the BJP are beginning to see the light, that we are in fact working for their upliftment as well, and we are beginning to get votes from all communities.
Yes. Yes. Specific to Uttar Pradesh, I think there's an expert, Mr. Nalin Mehta. He wrote a book called The New BJP, and he studied how the Labharthis sort of influence the BJP vote share. And I think there was much conjecture after that the BJP got a lot of Muslim women votes. See, obviously, at the end of the day, even minority families, they want their kids to go to a good school. They want help from the government to run their house, whatever. And I think that is your strength, that you're able to percolate all of the government schemes to the ground. So moving on, sir, this time, this election season, it seems that the BJP's strategy is to take as many allies as it can, natural allies and some new ones also, under the NDA umbrella. Having said that, BJP of course remains the big brother by a large margin in terms of numbers. How does the BJP make sure that the demands of the allies or the expectations of the allies are met, while at the same time ensuring that the allies sort of get on the same page of that ideological growth that the BJP wants to propel the nation towards?
Priyam ji, before answering this question, you mentioned something in passing which I think deserves a little bit of attention. You mentioned Labharthis. These are the beneficiaries
Yes.
of the various government yojanas. This is very critical because for decades they were cheated.
Yes.
There was a Congress Prime Minister back in the 80s who openly admitted that out of every rupee that the government spent, only 15 paisa reached
Yes.
the beneficiary. There was a huge patronage system. Their own parties, so-called Karyakartas and contractors used to get all the benefits. Now, the Modi government has changed all that. And you saw the resistance by some of these opposition parties to
Yes.
the JAM trilogy, to the Jan Dhan, Aadhaar and mobile trilogy, how they used to make fun of Jan Dhan accounts,
Yes, yes, yes.
how they opposed Aadhaar.
Yes.
You know, your viewers will remember that, and those who are too young to remember that should
Look into it.
look into it. Now, as a result, every last paisa spent by the government actually reaches the beneficiary.
Because of the direct benefit transfer.
That is one of the major ways, but because also of the crackdown on corruption that
Okay.
Modi ji has done. But
Okay.
one of the main tools is the DBT.
Okay.
But there are other policy changes also which make, you know, people in high positions have been sacked because of malfeasance. Now, there is a revolution that is happening, because any politician who has been around for more than 10 years will tell you that, ठीक है, you do something for the people which is good for them, but don't expect that to translate into votes. Now, this is a general theme running amongst politicians of an older era, that, you know, doing good works will not guarantee you votes. You have to do all kinds of other things of manipulations.
Yeah.
Now, it was understandable because the so-called good works, 85% didn't reach.
Yes.
So why should you expect that it should translate to anything?
Yes.
Now, today, we have a huge number of labhartis or beneficiaries. 800 million people are getting rations. Remember, these rations used to be lost to poor storage, to rats eating them, and they have been properly leveraged for the good of the people. That is why extreme poverty has gone below 1%. That is why India is surging ahead
Yes.
as a shining star, not just for GDP growth, but for overall upliftment of living standards of hundreds of millions of people. Now, so we engage with the labhartis on a very structured and regular basis. And this is not government's work. You know, government's work is done as soon as the code of conduct was announced. The party workers, millions of party workers, fan out at the booth level, and they reach out to all the labhartis. And last 5 years, our party workers have done social outreach, have helped these people out in need. And here we go with our flyers and posters and point out that these are Modi government works for you. Now, very sad, in some opposition-run states, they actually harm their own people for political reasons. In Chhattisgarh, when we won the election a few months ago, for the previous 5 years, the government there had not drawn the central funds to build 4 lakh houses for the poor. The money was there given by the Modi government, they were just not taking it. Now, in many states, the world's largest health insurance scheme, which is Ayushman Bharat,
Yes.
which gives a guarantee of 5 lakh rupee expenditure per family for any health crisis.
Yes.
They were not, till now, they are not being implemented in many states. So, for example, when our Karyakartas go door to door in Delhi, the state of Delhi, they point this out, that why should you be deprived of 5 lakhs health cushion for any crisis in your family, just because your chief minister is a crook who is avoiding investigations into huge scams, and for political reasons he doesn't want to give you this this scheme. So, outreach to labhartis and distributing our flyers and leaflets and pointing out what are the other yojanas which they are being deprived of it's a social work, but also it has huge political significance.
Of course.
And we get that is one of the reasons we have been getting such increased response from the public. Now, your second question was about
NDA.
allies. The BJP is not simply the biggest party in India, it's the biggest party in the history of humankind.
Yes.
It's the biggest party in the world. So these dynamics are a natural question. But there is a history in the BJP which is very important. The BJP has never mistreated or shunned or removed any ally. Now, all the allies who have left us in the past, whether it was Akali Dal, whether it was Shiv Sena, whether it was BJD, it was they who ditched the BJP. Or they had been blackmailing the BJP, like in Haryana, and they have left. Now, you don't see examples of BJP harassing them. In fact, BJP goes out of its way. I know because I have been, during my many years in Parliament, for almost a decade, I was the NDA coordinator for Odisha. I had the privilege of working in close coordination with the late Atalji, with Advani ji, with Arun Jaitley, with Sushma ji, with Rajnath ji, with Venkaya ji, and with all regional leaders.
Yes.
So I have seen at close hand
Yes.
how much of an extra helping hand is extended by the BJP, I'll say two more things. All kinds of false allegations are being made against BJP about what it represents, that it's a northern party, but it is an all India party. We have a presence in more booths in southern states than many of the other parties who claim to be so-called national parties. Now, the BJP goes around promoting an Indianness, a Bharatiyata, which is about every state's culture. The Prime Minister himself personally encourages supporting of each other's cultures. That's why today you will see in every Raj Bhavan, in every state, there is a celebration of other states' national statehood days and cultures. So to encourage local language, to encourage local food, local culture is it's inherent in the DNA of BJP. Our understanding of Bharatiyata is that in Odisha it is perfectly natural for us to celebrate the Odia culture, which is part of Bharatiya culture. Now, all this means that people who have been spreading disinformation sometimes get a reality check. For example, today the TDP is back as an ally with the BJP. The TDP has been an ally in the past. It left us, and I think they realized that the misconception that was had about the BJP only became clear when they were out of the NDA alliance. What has the TDP's leader Chandrababu Naidu ji said in a rally in Guntur just this week? He has said that Modi ji is the right leader at the right time. He is going to take India to the destination of having no poor person in the country. So this realization comes after they check out the landscape and see what happens. Many of the parties have a problem because they are dynastic parties and they have a different DNA, they have a different goal. Because whereas our goal is, and another slogan that we use a lot internally in the party is nation first, party second, self last. Now many parties cannot adjust to this. Nation first, party second, self last. Where many of these regional parties, they are bent upon promoting their sons and nephews and grandsons and nieces. And so there is a gelling issue. But I think more and more of them are adjusting to the reality that this is a new India, and this new India has stopped rewarding that kind of dynastic politics. Or relying on that kind of dynastic politics, and they have begun to believe in and they have started rewarding a vision that takes Bharat forward.
I totally agree with you. I mean, I'm from Maharashtra, so I see in Maharashtra that you have two new allies. I mean, sort of old parties, so the original Shiv Sena and now the Ajit Pawar NCP. NCP, of course, had a little bit of a different ideological belief than the BJP. But when Ajit Pawar took control over the NCP, he is rallying behind Prime Minister Modi's vision because he thinks that this is the only way we can reach that Viksit Bharat goal.
See, the NCP is an interesting example because it saw a split within a dynastic party. And although Ajit Pawar ji was also from the same family, but it became clear that somebody who has more acceptance of the people is going to have the clout and going to have the support of the MLAs. And that is a more democratic thing than just passing the baton from family member to family member without support of elected representatives. So basically this is a movement towards a more democratic system, a more democratic regime, where even many regional parties are acclimatizing and adapting to the reality that the old days of running your fiefdoms and just handing over the keys to your next generation is, those days are coming to an end.
So last question before we end. When the Prime Minister did Prabhu Shri Ram's Pran Pratishtha, the opposition cried foul that this was a political event, this was a BJP event, despite not really many BJP people being there actually. Do you think this is going to have any, even though you don't have that intent, even though you didn't have that intent, it was after all the courts that who gave the judgments at this time. But do you think that this is going to have any kind of political impact on ground? If yes, then how? And in Uttar Pradesh, yes, and which other states in the heartland do you think this is going to have an impact in states outside the heartland as well?
Let me explain. You know, the opposition's hypocrisy on virtually every issue, and especially highlighted in the Ram Mandir issue, is a trove of memes which should be spread far and wide. Now, these opposition, they spent decades opposing the Ram Mandir. They taunted the BJP, and yet many of them didn't turn up for the Pran Pratishtha, but have separately gone and done darshan and are trying to take credit for it. The reality is that this is a civilizational issue. It's not an issue about religion per se, because the Bharat, which for millennia attracted people from all over the world, was suppressed, attacked, damaged for centuries. And one of the seminal moments of that assault was when the original Ram Mandir was destroyed 500 years ago. And so it's been an anticipation of 500 years where many generations sacrificed and died, but nevertheless persisted. And yes, it is a court decision, but also the ambience and the persistence with which the Bharatiya Janata Party had campaigned for this for decades meant that everybody was aware that there would be no law and order problem. Just like there was no law and order problem in Jammu and Kashmir when Article 370 was removed, and today that state is back on the path to normalcy and the highest ever tourist footfalls. Similarly, I believe the court must have had a confidence that this is not being done for partisan reasons and that there will be no law and order problem because of any partisan politics locally. And they were proven right. Any political benefit from that is a side benefit, because we have championed this cause for so many decades. Of course, in Uttar Pradesh, there is a huge wave of enthusiasm, because for generations and for centuries, this aspiration had laid forcibly suppressed, and many people had sort of acquiesced to the oppression. Today, they have realized that, you know, justice can finally be done, and that opens up their vistas about many other aspirations which they have in terms of social and economic progress, which they now realize that justice is being done and that they are correct to aspire. So, Uttar Pradesh, there is a huge wave of enthusiasm, but it's far beyond Uttar Pradesh. It's all over the country. So, you know, on the Pran Pratishtha, there was only the Prime Minister was there from the BJP in his capacity as Prime Minister. There was nobody else from BJP. Nobody else. All of us were in our own places, in our own states, having bhajans and kirtans at various different temples. Now, there are some, you know, nearly 60-year-old youthful opposition leaders who keep making these false accusations about which industrialist was there, which actor was there, being a BJP thing. It's totally false. Everybody can see it. Now, I'll tell you a story from Odisha. So, Odisha is a state where the predominant culture is the Jagannath culture. Now, Jagannath ji is an avatar of Krishna. Now, of course, Prabhu Ram is worshipped, but the overwhelming culture is Jagannath, and that overshadows every other deity, every other religious angle. I was astounded that even in remote areas, in Adivasi Janjati villages, in other villages, covering all over, the enthusiasm, and this is, I can speak because it's my home state. I've heard similar stories from Kerala, from Tamil Nadu, from Goa, from other places, where train loads of lakhs of devotees are clamoring and making their way to Ayodhya for darshan. So clearly, this is an awakening of a national aspiration.
It's an injustice corrected.
It was a huge historical civilizational injustice which has been corrected. Now, as I said, it's a reawakening of Bharat. It's a renaissance of India.
Yes.
Any political benefit that comes to the BJP is a side benefit,
and it's
that's because we have championed it.
And the BJP has put it in the manifesto. I mean, it's not hidden from it at all. Thank you, sir. Thank you for your time. With
Thank
this,
you.
we
Namaskar.
end our discussion. I really enjoyed our chat, and I hope the youth that sees this, and that's a large percentage of our viewers, I really hope they get a lot of insight about organizational build-up, etc., and some of these other issues that we discussed. So once again, thank you.